Hi, Red Shirt here. Today I want to talk about capitalism. What the heck is it? Everybody's got a different definition of it, of course. I want to read a dictionary definition. Capitalism is an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. Characteristics central to capitalism include private property, very important, capital accumulation, wage labor, voluntary exchange, a price system, and competitive markets. Now, before the crash of '08 and Occupy Wall Street made capitalism a household word, you couldn't even say capitalism in a country like the United States. It was either considered, it's just nature, it's just natural, there's no name to it, it's just the way it is, which is false. Or it's free enterprise. Capitalism is freedom. Capitalism equals democracy. And of course, none of that is true. It's a system that was created for specific reasons. Right? So now we can actually talk about it. Now you can actually say capitalism in public, in mixed company, and not be hooted down. Right? So, it is an economic system in which fluid wealth, this is the genius of capitalism, fluid wealth is accumulated by individuals. And those individuals are the plutocrats. Okay, that means ruled by the wealthy. But they're the modern plutocrats. We've had plutocrats around since the beginning of class society. The beginning of agriculture, 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, in different parts of the world, about 9 different parts of the world where agriculture was invented. That's the beginning of class society. You can find that on a previous Red Shirt episode, Red Shirt 6, What is Class Society? I highly recommend it. But it is a system in which capitalist class and the working class work together to produce wealth and use wealth. Now, let me talk a little bit about the history of capitalism, because it only started around the 1400s, and that phase of capitalism was called mercantile capitalism. What that did was it expanded trade. That's when the great discoveries, mainly by Europeans and Chinese, they went all over the world and opened up the world to trade. And the Europeans really developed mercantile capitalism to a high degree. They also invented racism, which didn't really exist before then. Not judging people harshly by not being white, in other words. Yeah, racism is a very handy device to divide the working class, because the working class has to be divided. We all have to be at each other's throats in order for a tiny, tiny number of people. I mean, less than 1%, maybe 0.1%, the billionaires and the multimillionaires in the world, to rule. Well, we have to be divided in order for them to rule. And that's how racism has become very, very handy. And then mercantile capitalism transformed into industrial capitalism. It's around 1700, especially the 1800s, when industry became the dominant form of capital. Yeah, there was still trading, there was still mercantile, but now workers and capitalists were concentrated in cities so that wealth could be produced even more efficiently. And this is the beauty. This is capitalism in its prime. The inventors, right? The entrepreneurs, the risk takers, all determined to invent ways of becoming wealthy, individually wealthy. And this really pushed technology forward at a frantic pace, exponential growth. This is capitalism. This is the beauty of it. I call it beautiful. Even though I'm a socialist, I call it beautiful because it got us to a point where all scarcities are actually just fiction. All scarcities in the world are fiction. And then, and of course the French Revolution wiped out feudalism, which capitalism has replaced, and determined that capitalism is now the main method of organizing the economy. Okay, and in 1848, revolutions all over Europe really dealt a death blow to the reigning aristocracy. They still hung on until World War I, but their power was greatly reduced, and the capitalist class came to the fore. And then in the American Civil War, which is really the second American Revolution, the Northern capitalists smashed their heretofore senior partners, the slaveocracy in the South, smashed them forever and took over. And since the Civil War, capitalism has reigned supreme in the United States. And that was a very revolutionary situation, very much supported by all revolutionaries and all socialists, of course. So you know who wrote the book on capitalism? I mean, really defined it and got into it like nobody else ever had or ever has since, and that was Karl Marx. He wrote Das Kapital in German's Capital. He really analyzed the heck out of it. Now, I have not read Das Kapital, but I've read many sections, many excerpts from it, and it's quite enlightening. Anyway, so, you know, capitalism is really a genius. It's a genius system for exponential growth. It's infinite growth. Trouble is that it's finite. In a finite world, it's infinite growth on a finite world, you know. So there's only one Earth, and they're having trouble finding markets. They can't sell their shit. And that's an indication that this is the last stage of class society. You know, I told you class society lasted for 10,000 years or more. This is the final stage. Of course, this was predicted in Das Kapital. This is the final stage because there's so much production, there's so much automation, there's so much wealth that has produced, so much wealth capacity to produce wealth, that we don't need poverty anymore. In fact, very soon, I mean, all objects that have wealth can become worthless, just like salt is practically worthless now. Back in the old days, 200 years ago, it was worth gold. And now, nobody charges for salt. You go to a restaurant, you don't have to pay for salt because it's everywhere. It's easy to produce, you see. So that's what's going to happen with everything. Everything that you think is valuable will become valueless. Well, where's the market then? Where's the free enterprise then? There won't be any room for private accumulation of wealth because nobody will care. That's going to take another revolution. Anyway, so under capitalism, competition is king. Yes, it's the money scramble. It's the dog-eat-dog society par excellence. And we are all encouraged to run over our own grandmothers if that will earn us some money so that we can climb to the top, right? Well, but the problem is, though, that the capitalist class needs the working class. The capitalist class actually invented the working class, also known as the proletariat. Because without the working class, capitalist class cannot make profit. And that's its be-all, end-all. It's profit and profit margins. So, because machines don't run themselves, do they? Machines don't operate themselves. Workers operate machines, as we have been doing since the invention of archery. So we operate machines, oftentimes, to create the wealth which the plutocrats take for themselves and manage for themselves, and they use it for their own ends. Okay, so you can find out more about the working class in Red Shirt 5. Let's back up a little bit. So, I said all these deficiencies. Oh, I don't have enough of this. I don't have a home, right? I have a home. Somebody doesn't have a home. Well, there's plenty of materials to build a home. There's materials out there. There's know-how. And there's wealth stored in offshore accounts. And there's plenty of productive capacity to create a home for every person in the world. But it's not being done, of course. But, it's getting harder and harder with the internet and TV and movies there and to convince people that there isn't enough wealth in the world, isn't there? People are beginning to realize these billionaires and millionaires, multimillionaires, they're just sitting on all this money and they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to make more money with it because markets are drying up. It's become a shark feeding frenzy among capitalists where they're eating each other and they're eating, of course, small businesses. Small businesses are really taking a hit. Farmers, small businesses really taking a hit here because the capitalists don't need them, right? They don't need them. In fact, they compete. Well, this shark feeding frenzy is called neoliberalism, which is really a stupid term. It's a way of avoiding the truth that it's capitalism. It's late stage capitalism. But if you say neoliberalism, which really actually means nothing, that's a way of saying, well, capitalism, it isn't capitalism. Capitalism can be fixed. We can fix it. It's just neoliberalism. Once we get rid of neoliberalism, everything will be fine. And that's a great big fat lie. It's a big lie. The same thing with globalization. That's just global capitalism. Capitalism is a global system, right? It's all over the world. It's not just in one country. It's not just in the United States, for example. But you know what? So is the working class. Working class is worldwide too. And it's working class solidarity that stops plants from moving from a wealthy country to an underdeveloped country and paying workers in underdeveloped countries a lot less. It's working class solidarity that says, no, we demand to be paid the same as you would in the rich country. And we're all one class and we're all sticking together. Well, we don't see a lot of that yet, but that's what's coming. That's what will defeat so-called globalization, which is really just another form of late-stage capitalism. Okay? So all of this poverty can be eliminated, but we need somebody else besides the minority plutocrats, the capitalist class, to manage it, to own it and manage it. It needs to be owned socially and managed democratically, mostly at the local level. It's the local level where we need things, right? And we have to get rid of this notion that anybody can solve the capitalism, that anybody can save it from its death agony, that anybody can manage it successfully. So that's what voting is all about. We just vote for the right people and they can manage it, they can save it. Well, of course, none of them have any idea that capitalism is dying. Did you hear any of these people, liberals or conservatives, talk about capitalism dying? Of course not. Their careers depend on the survival of the capitalist system. They are not futurists. They don't look ahead. All they do is kick the can down the road and make as much profit as they can. Of course, that's because that's what they're trained to do. So we're going to have to rise a whole level above that. Right? And I'll tell you, if capitalism is not successfully overthrown and replaced with a worldwide socialist government, what we're facing is a fascist takeover. And that's World War III, nuclear winter, far, far worse than global warming, and something to be taken very, very seriously. I think I did that in Red Shirt 9. You can look up fascism in Red Shirt 9. Anyway, this is capitalism, the system we live under. It's dying. It's on its way out. It has been very revolutionary, very wonderful up until the last century. And then it's had some very serious hiccups and death agony right now. So that's capitalism. Thanks for listening. I recommend that you read the Militant newspaper for the truth and intelligent opinions based on the working class and the needs of the working class. Until next time, this is Red Shirt saying, keep fighting.